and gentlemen, greeting from Global Tourism Forum, headquarters London. Today, I was honored to moderate our next digital panel session on tourism achievements. I am very honored to introduce you to you next valued guest, who has new hopes to travel and tourism industry and its impact on tourism actors worldwide. Mr. Dorje Dradul, Director General of Tourism Council of Bhutan. Welcome, Mr. Dorje Dradul.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nishlihan and World Tourism Forum Institute for having me on this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us. As we all know, there is a huge impact on travel and tourism industry due to COVID-19. We would like to hear your voice of knowledge on our panel discussion, amid pandemic and policy impacts on the future tourism. I would like to begin with asking you, how relevant will Bhutan tourism policy of high value, low volume, which was there for the last 50 years?
Thank you. So we have been always telling our tourism policy of high value, low volume was in fact ahead of its time. It was started 50 years ago. And with this, amid this COVID and post-COVID, we believe that this is even going to be very more relevant. Now, just to explain this a little bit, in fact, pre-COVID-19, tourism already started to face some challenges like the over-tourism, the mass tourism, basically adversely impacting the carrying capacity of destinations, the sites, the cultural erosion, and to the extent that losing the charm and joy of tourism because of the over-tourism of the crowding. And now this COVID-19 has further reinforced these challenges by adding the risks to the health and the personal safety of the tourists and the hosts from COVID-19 pandemic. So now, even pre-COVID and now, we are already globally, the destinations are already looking for a new model for tourism. And then we are saying, at least Bhutan, we are saying maybe that new model is the one that Bhutan has been practicing for the last 50 years, which is a high value, low volume tourism. But in essence, this is nothing but sustainable tourism. We have been practicing so-called high value, low volume tourism, mainly ensuring the sustainable tourism. And also, this is also very much based on our development philosophy, again, which is also again termed as a gross national happiness. So our tourism policy of high value, low volume, it goes beyond revenue and receipts. It is kind of a middle path. So we feel that that is going to be the future of tourism globally. I mean, not only in Bhutan. I mean, this is our expectation.
Definitely globally. I will have to agree on that with you. I mean, hopefully everything's going to get back to normal. Can I move to my next question, or have you got anything to add into this?
No, I think you can proceed.
Move on to my next question. So my next question will be, how do you see the destinations trending in 2021 and beyond or post-COVID-19? So if you can give us a bit more information on your, based on this question.
Yeah, so this is very much related to the first question.
Mm-hmm.
So now, because of the COVID-19 and pre-COVID challenges that tourism has been facing, we are now presently talking about rethinking our tourism policy, rethinking our tourism practice, rethinking our tourism strategies. So, in fact, COVID-19, the silver lining of the COVID-19 was that it has given us all over the world, the destinations, the much needed time out to rethink our tourism. So therefore, as I said earlier, first and foremost, I think globally the world tourism has to think of an alternate tourism policy and strategy that will basically address not only the COVID-19 related issues that has emerged, but also pre-COVID, like the climate change crisis that is also very much impacting our tourism, and also the tourism itself, the over tourism, the mass tourism. So basically, as we prepare for 2021 or beyond COVID-19, we are basically being required to relook at those, and including trying to find out some new tourism products. So what could be, I mean, maybe some of the tourism offers that we have pre-COVID may not necessarily be in demand post-COVID. So one in particular I'm thinking of is, especially in Bhutan, we are already moving towards that. We are thinking that post-COVID, one of our tourism offer will be that of wellness and well-being, because and for COVID-19 has made us realize that the importance of the safety, the personal health and the well-being of an individual as a tourist. So that has become so important. So we feel that maybe tourism focusing on wellness and well-being could be something that will be attractive to the future tourists. So basically, we have to rethink our policy, our strategy, our model, and also the tourism product itself.
I completely agree with you. So I think globally we just have to rethink and come out with new directions to get into shape again. Thank you very much for that. So I will be now moving to my next question. My next question will be, how has Bhutan been able to navigate the pandemic so far? I would like to hear from you what kind of directions you already taken so far.
Yeah, first and foremost, I like to share here that with deepest gratitude to our beloved king for his extraordinary leadership. We feel that we believe that pandemic per se has been navigated exceptionally well. In fact, the way we have managed the COVID-19, we have already received some global attention in the global media, and this is not by chance. But on the contrary, it is a result of a well thought out, far-sighted and visionary strategy and plan devised by our king. And so in terms of the personal health and the well-being, we have done exceptionally well. As of now, we have recorded just one loss of death from pandemic. Of course, we have still some positive cases, but these are all under control. And now coming to the economic side, of course, we cannot be exception. I mean, globally, the economy has been affected. So we also are not an exception. So our economy is also going through a tough time. But having said this, again, His Majesty the King has come into the picture, and through his gracious vision and support, we have actually, at this point in time, since the start of the COVID, no Bhutanese have actually suffered seriously in terms of their livelihoods, because His Majesty rolled out His Majesty the King's welfare scheme, which actually provided minimum income to the family that has been laid off. And similarly, we have introduced so many other fiscal and monetary measures that actually, such as loan deferments, interest waiver, and tax deferment, and so many were not doing great, but at least it is still kept afloat by the intervention from His Majesty the King and from the royal government. So, but at this point in time, of course, from tourism sector, we are also impatiently waiting the COVID-19 to subside so that we can start opening up and start getting rolling out our tourism. But as of now, as we all know, there's not much in our control. I mean, basically, it is on the how the COVID-19 situation evolves or progresses, not only in our country but especially in our neighboring countries, like India, Thailand, Nepal, Bangladesh. How they do, the situation in their countries also very much will influence what will happen to us. So therefore, while we are all hoping that COVID-19 globally and also in our country and regionally become better, and then start our tourism. So this is something that we are hoping. And as soon as the tourism restarts, in terms of preparation, we are actually ready. We have, as I said earlier, we have got this 1.5 year timeout, during which we have done so many preparation for tourism sector, so that when tourism reopens, we could offer better services, better experience to our tourists.
It's great. I mean, great to hear that your recorded is very, very low. And also, I completely agree with it. It's a global problem. It's not one destination. I think it's a problem that whole world is going through. And this is why there is a solid support to each other's destination. So it's not seen as one destination problem. It's seen as whole globe problem.
I agree. Yes.
Hoping, like you're saying, hoping that everyone will come out with fresh, new travel industry very soon. I'm going to ask you my last question for our session, and that will be about what makes Bhutan so special, a distinct travel destination in the world. So if you can give us a bit more feedback about this question as well.
Yeah, of course, we don't want to claim ourselves to be special, but our visitors, our guests have been telling us just so many testimonials saying that Bhutan is really a special destination. So we are just repeating, echoing what others are saying. They say that the moment they come out of the plane, land in Bhutan and come out of the plane, they start to feel totally different. I mean, the moment they start breathing our air, the water, I mean, they see peace, tranquility, everything they say is different. So, and I feel that it is so because one is mainly because of our tourism policy. For last 50 years, our tourism policy has been very cautious. It is a sustainability-based tourism policy, high value, low volume, meaning we have been very careful in regulating the total number of arrivals. Of course, we really didn't have this issue of having to curtail the number as such, but then we said the number of tourists that come to Bhutan has to be regulated based on our carrying capacity. So far we have been doing this. So therefore, we really don't have this crowd or so-called the over tourism. So maybe that is one big aspect that is really making Bhutan special for a tourist, because all over the world, in most destinations, I'm sure it's not only Bhutan, but most of the destinations, it is very big and very kind of crowded. I mean, that is one, could be one. The second could be I feel the natural setting here, which is now brought about by, I would attribute this to the fact that we are being blessed by our extraordinary leadership, our kings, our monarchs. And in Bhutan, I believe that whatever significant things that has happened to Bhutan is all came from His Majesty the King. I mean, our kings. Now, for instance, the COVID-19 situation, how it was managed, it is for everyone, of us to know that this is basically the leadership came from His Majesty the King. So therefore, the whole solidarity, the characteristics of the people here, this could be one, and also because of the visionary policy, the culture, the tradition that we have been able to keep intact. Like for instance, this is the national dress that we're wearing, that I'm wearing. This comes from 16th, 14th century, this national dress. And I'm sorry, I don't know whether you've been to Bhutan. If you have been to Bhutan,
No,
I'm
but
sorry.
the more you're telling me, it strikes
Okay.
me so much now. Like, as a destination, I think Bhutan will be my next destination list. I mean, the way that you express yourself, you have promoted so well that it gives people appetite to come there.
Good. So that's very good. So what I was telling is this dress that I'm wearing, this comes from 14th, 15th century. We are still using this as our normal dress in our daily lives. So our tradition, our culture is still intact. And at the same time, the so-called development, the fast-paced modern development is also coming in, but we have been able to balance it out very well. And that is again because of the visionary development philosophy known as gross national happiness, which is a middle path, which is kind of alternative to the gross domestic product development model. So therefore, our culture tradition is still very authentic. The other aspect of Bhutan being especially is, again, I'm sure you must have heard it, that we have such a far-sighted visionary environment policy. Our constitution mandates that Bhutan be covered by forests. Minimum of 60% of the land should be covered by forests at all times to come. This is by law. And as of today, we have 72% of a country covered by forests. And we are being told that we are the only carbon negative economy in the world as of today. So our nature, our environment is still very pristine, so very intact. So therefore, the air, the water, the earth, everything, the nature is so pristine. So that's why I think the tourists, which I started earlier saying, the moment that they land in a country and come out of the plane and start breathing our air, they totally feel rejuvenated. They feel there's something kind of a spiritual awakening. Now, again, culturally, we are kind of dominantly a Buddhist, but not so kind of. I mean, it is a secular state. I mean, all religions can be practiced here, but our state religion is Buddhism, and is a kind of a very spiritual place here. I mean, every mountain hills that you see, you feel like going there and start meditating. So maybe all this put together, I could say Bhutan is a good place, special. And also now post-COVID, when COVID has made us realize that importance of the health or personal well-being and health, we feel Bhutan could be that place because we have that space, we have that the natural setting wherein you can get all this kind of rejuvenation, the spiritual awakening, the self-discovery. So these are all possible in our country, I would say.
No, I mean, the impression that I've taken from you is that you're already ready with and you kept your natural everything. So the way that you explain your natural air, natural forest, natural outfits. So you're already within your natural entertainment. So you haven't really, because I know around the world, there's some countries is trying to get into this natural look, faking it. But what I understand from you is you already have this natural beauty within Bhutan. So it's like a gift from the gods, I will say. And like you said, it's now most of the people around the world has kind of discovered that the health, natural living and health being is one of the most important of our life, which we've never thought about this before, because I think everyone was so busy dealing with all sort of work lifestyle, all sort of things. Now we kind of step back and kind of realize that the natural and the health is one of the most important impact for our lifestyle.
Yes. No, I strongly believe that. Yes, definitely.
No, I mean, it's just like, whatever you shared with us, my next destination will be Bhutan. Soon as your doors are open, please let me
please be our guest.
Definitely. I mean, I will definitely come to your country because the way that you expressed yourself, it's like everything is natural. You don't really need to do anything to promote it. So it's natural beauty, I'll say.
Yes.
Great. Thank you for your insights, your information that you shared with us. Like I said, Mr. Dorje Drado, I would like to thank you hugely on behalf of Global Tourism Forum and the travel industry for participating on our panel and hoping to have you in person on our upcoming events when everything gets back to normality, like the old days, have face-to-face events delivered. And maybe one day we'll run one of our events in Bhutan.
Yes, why not? Yes.
And that will be one of the most amazing experience I think we will have. If you got anything to add into our panel discussion, I'll take the last word and then we end it from there.
No, thank you very much. I'd like to thank you and the GTF, the World Tourism Forum Institute, for giving us this opportunity. And I'd like to wish the upcoming event in Indonesia a big success, a great success. Thank you so
very
much.
much.
I really look forward to having you here as a
Definitely, that's one of my next destinations. Thank you very much. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to introduce you to our next valued guest, Mrs. Mariana Oleskiv, Chairperson of the State Agency for Tourism Development of Ukraine. Please welcome Mrs. Mariana. Welcome,
Hello.
Mariana.
Hello.
Due to current situation, COVID-19, that whole world is going through a difficult period, especially travel and tourism industry. Hence why, Mrs. Mariana, we would really like to hear voice of your knowledge on our panel discussion, Tourism Achievement, Amid Pandemic and Policy Impact on the Future Tourism. Mrs. Mariana, I would like to start asking you, I have a few questions and I would like to begin with, how does Ukraine tourism adapt to the pandemic and what can it offer tourists in 2021?
Yes, thank you for the question. We know that the tourism industry has been hit hardest by the current quarantine restrictions caused by COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, in 2020, foreigners traveled to Ukraine much less, and it was 4 times decrease in comparison to the numbers of 2019. So we had around more than 13 million arrivals in 2019, and then it decreased to a little bit more than 3 million in 2020. But at the same time, it was a window for possibilities for Ukrainian domestic tourism. And it became a really good possibility for recovery for Ukrainian tourism starting from June last year. The initiative of the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, we conducted a promotional campaign called, in Ukrainian it sounds Mandruy Ukrainою, which is travel in Ukraine, where we asked hundreds of opinion leaders in Ukraine to make their posts in social media with this hashtag, telling about their favorite places to travel in Ukraine and encouraging Ukrainians to start exploring even more their own country than they did before COVID-19. And now we see with the research we've done that actually there was an increase in domestic travel comparing to previous years, and the Ukrainians opened and their interest was more in the locations that are not typical for travel so much, not only mountains and sea, but these beautiful nature sites we have in Ukraine, and few of the lakes, they were kind of discoveries from the last year. So we had during this summertime 14,000 new posts in Instagram. At the beginning was 14,000, and then at the end it was 150,000 posts, and about 20 million views of the videos with this hashtag on in TikTok, and then a few million views on YouTube, and a huge TV coverage. Together also with our partners, we did a lot of media tours for Ukrainian media in the tourism locations. And at the end, of course, we didn't have any tourism business that was completely shut or bankrupt. And then this year, of course, we also have some new possibilities for the tourism because Ukraine is opened as a country, and EU is not, unfortunately. And then we had the visa-free regime for many countries like Saudi Arabia. And this year we have, this month, we have already starting direct flight connection with Saudi Arabia, and around 30% of all occupation in the hotels in Kyiv and Lviv, two main touristic cities, are actually tourists from this country. So Ukraine is going pretty good with recovery, and we hope the dynamics will keep on. Thank you.
Wow, that's I mean, I've taken some of the notes that you were saying. It's good that you did so much for your domestic tourists, which I think most of the country is doing the similar thing. And also the social media power, how powerful that your views, your posts are being seen on the social media. And the encouragement, I think it's great what you've been doing. It's just like encouraging more local domestic tourists to keep the businesses live, especially we are going through really tough time. Great, thank you for your insights and information. And I want to move on to our next question. I mean, you covered a tiny bit, but also I would like to ask you, why should tourists visit Ukraine? So if you can make Ukraine to more attractive to tourists, why they should come to Ukraine?
Actually, we have a rich cultural and national heritage which attracts foreign guests, talented and hospitable people, authenticity, diversity of nature. And Ukraine also has a number of advantages that encourage it to visit. This is both accessibility and convenient location on the world map, because we're in the center of Europe, and delicious and affordable national cuisine. I think the Ukrainian gastronomy is one of our key points why you should visit Ukraine and try this amazing, tasty food. And of course, variety of tourist destinations, interesting tourist locations that are spread all around the countries, where you don't have the big groups of tourists being very close. You know, you can keep social distancing because Ukraine is one of the biggest European countries, like the biggest actually one in our square meters. So we have a lot to offer. We have desert, we have sea, we have mountains, we have caves, lakes and rivers. So the country has a lot to offer.
Great. So what I discovered from your question is you have very rich culture, which is, I think it's amazing. Like you said, it's center of the Europe. It makes people easier to fly in. And gastronomy, it's really, I think it's very popular around the world now. I mean, people are traveling just to taste the food.
We have also these medical and health resorts with a very specific water, which is good for your stomach and for like recovery from all these diseases with the stomach, and a lot of other treatments, plus cosmetology and these other health treatments. And they are also much more affordable than in other countries, but with a high quality of service.
Great. I mean, it's basically you're offering very niche product, very selective, very good quality. So you're putting all of them together and you're offering as a package. So I think I want to come Ukraine next as well after you're telling me about this.
And
Uh,
the other thing is, yes, we actually have like visa free for almost all, world. Of course, European Union, US, Canada, Great Britain, and Australia, New Zealand, uh, and the countries of the Gulf, like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Qatar. Plus, we have visa-free regime for China too. So we are very much open for tourism, and it's easy to get. Now the entrance rules are very simple. So you need to have either 2 doses of vaccine or PCR test or antigen test.
right. It's you're ready to accept your visitors. I mean, I'm just hoping we will get this positive sign from most of the countries around the world, because we are seeing there is a really big, like quite big impact, and hoping that everything will get back to normality in a very, very short time. Of course, we will all have to work together, like, support each other, because it's a one world problem. It's not one destination problem. Great. So I want to ask you my next question. It's about mobility tourism. So the mobility tourism infrastructure, sustainability, green tourism. How does tourism change in these areas? And what is your vision for future development in this direction?
Yes, eco and green tourism has been really gaining popularity in Ukraine, and of course, it's we are in the trend with the rest of the world. And this time of tourism has become almost the only one after the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic. So we couldn't gather in the groups, so we had to contact more with nature than with other people. And Ukraine has one of the biggest territory of national parks due to our whole territory. We have them in almost every region of Ukraine, especially in Carpathian region with these virgin European forest. We have a lot of rural areas where we have these rural tourism, and people accept their guests in their houses, offer them their products grown in their own gardens. You have the possibility to get the milk like directly from the cow or goat. And that's amazing. They do a lot of these products you can taste. They taste completely differently than you buy in the supermarket or some other places. So in these terms, we are trying this year actively to develop infrastructure in those areas, like the roads, for example, and also with national parks. Now the website that offers information about all Ukrainian national parks is developed now in Ukrainian language, but in another few weeks it will be in English too. So we have like this large scale renewal of road infrastructure, because we have beautiful places, but sometimes it was more difficult to get there. And we'll have very convenient and comfortable travel possible already now. And so our agency's immediate plan is to study domestic and inbound tourism, and to tell people more about possibilities of Ukraine, because we're at the moment a little bit like unknown country for most of people. But as soon as you get here, it's normally a very good surprise what we have and what we offer.
Great. I mean, like I said, it's very impressed the way that you're doing so much to promote your destination, which is great. And also like with everything, like, this digital, that social media, And also, the most importantly, you're promoting your destination to your own domestic tourists, which is, I think, one of the main impact. It's very important for your own country people to know your products and they can promote it more and more. In the previous years, of course, these are the one of the things, because travelers are always were looking to travel outside. And it's great, like, you know, you're putting road infrastructure together, making roads more comfortable. And you were talking about you have the biggest national parks and also have it in all regions, which is great. It's like a nature beauty. It's a gift from the God. I mean, it's just great to hear what you're doing, and also it's a really good the information that you shared with us, which whole world will hear and then take some ideas. It's a new direction for everyone, and it will make the destination to rethink what they can do within their destination. Anna, if you have anything to add into our discussion, if we don't have anything, I would like to thank you for attending Global Tourism Forum online session. And hopefully, when everything gets back to more normality, we would really like to have you in person in one of our events. And you've shared so much great information with us, which is, I think, is really, really valuable.
Thank you very much. Yes, and hope to see you live next time. Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very honored to introduce to you our next valued guest, Mr. Kairat Sadvasko. He is the Vice Chairman of the Kazakhstan Tourist Board. Please welcome Mr. Kairat.
Hello, thank you very much. It's great to be here. Always happy to be participating at the Global Tourism Forum's events.
Thank you very much. Due to current situation, COVID-19, that the whole world is going through difficult period, especially travel and tourism industry. Hence why today, Mr. Kairat, we would really like to hear your voice of knowledge on our panel about tourism achievements amid pandemic and the policy impact on the future tourism. Today, I would like to ask you a few questions, and if you can tell us about what Kazakhstans have been doing during pandemic, during this current situation. I would like to ask you, how does Kazakhstan tourism adapt to the pandemic, and what can it offer tourists in 2021?
Sure. Well, last year, many of the industries were hit really hard, and tourism was one of them. The government had to identify the priority sectors which needed the help of the government the most, and tourism obviously became one of those. And first of all, we had to look at how to save jobs in tourism. The government offered special wages to people who were temporarily laid off due to low occupancy, and cut on the airlines, flights, and so on. So the wages, the special tax deferrals, in some of the cases, taxes were waived at all. So this was the period until June, the middle of June of last year. So a couple of months, the industry was really, really struggling. Only 20% of hotels of the country managed to stay afloat, somehow rendering services like laundry, food delivery, transforming into temporarily hospitals for COVID patients, and so on. The rest was totally closed. Of course, all the kind of airline connection flights, railway, buses, everything was halted. But in June, the government was brave enough to open up. We saw our national carrier Air Astana resuming flights, even international flights. So In May, we saw some of the domestic flights already coming back. And in June, we opened up to several destinations in the region, as well as long haul flights like South Korea, for instance, Turkey, were among the countries where we have very close connections. So opening up was the bravest and I think the wisest decision. Of course, it was controlled. Passengers in the beginning had to bring negative PCR tests. The employees of hotels, which were also opened up as early as June of last year, they will have to test every week. But then in the course of time, of course, we had to lift certain restrictions, like this requirement for PCR for all the passengers and for the employees of the hotel, because it was quite a burden in terms of the economic, the cost of doing business. So slowly but surely, we lifted several restrictions, and we saw business coming back, mostly domestic. Of course, hotels and other services who would rely mostly on inbound tourists, they saw 75% drop in revenue, in occupancy, and so on. But domestic travel has made up a little bit for that loss. But overall, the situation was kind of seeing the light at the end of a tunnel. So once again, to reiterate, the government made this wise decision. It was at times hit and miss initiative. We would open up and then we see new cases raising again. Then we would reduce the number of flights again. So kind of playing by ear, seeing how to adapt best was kind of a good strategy. So to answer your question, we had to adapt first by unfortunately canceling some of the marketing budgets and turning them into product development, into infrastructure, and so on. We managed to raise additional funding of $160 million just for infrastructure projects. You would know in normal times, people would be pursuing marketing initiatives because it's very exciting, it's cool, destinations would want to promote themselves, but doing really the homework was a challenge. And we used this time to look at what has to be done, what sort of chores had to be done at home, where we're missing roads, where we're missing roadside infrastructure, like different car service outlets, this kind of last mile of the highway, which leads to a very important small destination along, let's say, Silk Road, and so on. So we raised this amount to build these small things. So the entire picture looked more complete in terms of tourism accessibility. Then we looked into what had to be done in terms of product development. Of course, there was and there still is a trend for solo travel, for being away, kind of try to stay away, social distancing, and so on. So we looked into caravanning tourism. Kazakhstan is huge, 9th largest country in the world. We had to see and actually cover 4,000 kilometers along the southern border of Kazakhstan and identify what spots should be there for solo travelers who would be driving on autohomes, on caravans. So we identified 38 spots. And now we're working on supplying necessary utilities there, so these caravanners can travel solo. We looked into reviving traditional arts and crafts. So we worked with, in 4 regions, we worked with local artisans, helping them to come up with a sustainable model, how to work and make it more economically successful for them in small regions, in villages, and so on. So this kind of things, more on the infrastructure and product development side, would substitute our marketing initiatives. But nevertheless, on the marketing side, we still tried to kind of remain on the radars of potential travelers once the restrictions would be lifted. No one knew when would this happen, but we tried to do small things like PR campaigns, and one of them was the very nice campaign following the subsequent movie of Borat. It was really successful and very efficient in terms of spending. We received more than 1.2 billion impressions on the entire campaign. Really successful. We were named by major news outlets like Le Figaro, The Telegraph as one of the destinations to visit in 2021. So again, going back to your question on what we can offer in 2021 is definitely eco and ethnic travel in Kazakhstan.
That's great.
Absolutely. We have 13 national parks across huge territory, and only, speaking of the density of the population, less than 7 people per square kilometer. So one can travel for hundreds of kilometers and seeing just the unspoiled nature, flat areas, mountains, national parks, all types of landscapes. So we would welcome travelers. We want to pursue less traveled by, itineraries. Some places are really unspoiled. People never set foot in there, but it's still very safe. Kazakhstan's nationals very comfortable.
It's the way that I think how when pandemic started, the way that the government has supported you with the jobs and the help and the taxes, all of these, which is really good. And you've said it was very brave to do it, because I think all the destinations try to do the same way. Some worked, some didn't work, which also encouraged domestic tourism as well to lift up, because pandemic kind of made people recognize to spend more time in your local destination, which I think everyone was, when you had vacation, you were looking abroad. And during pandemic, everybody started to see what they can actually discover around the country they're living, which was, we have to look at it from the positive side. So it was more like a marketing for your own domestic tourists, which was, I think it's really good. And what you're offering from the ecotourism, ethnic tourism, and talking about your national parks is very interesting. And also the product development made me think it's really good way of working, instead of using the marketing, promoting your destination, which is going to be not really useful, which the other way that you're working on the product development, what must be done, how improvements you could do. So I think it's really good way of taking it. So taking that now, and I want to move on to my next question is, so you covered some of it, but I'm still going to ask you this question. How has the Kazakhstan been able to navigate the pandemic so far?
Well, we have close to 500,000 cases overall since the beginning of the pandemic. The fatality rate is really low, under 1%. Recovery rate is really high. Everything is now dependent upon the vaccination rate. That depends on how soon we can open up completely. Right now, we are open to 17 destinations. Just few days ago, we went to Almaty to see the inaugural test flight, not the regular flight yet, but the test flight between Milan and Almaty. First time in history connecting two countries directly. So this kind of initiatives, again, it's kind of hit and miss. We try and see, because the situation changes every time with different destinations. But the vaccination rate is really significant. And we are now at about 15% of full vaccination. That's the rate as of now. More than 25% received at least one component. The campaign has been deployed 3 months ago, and is now at its full swing, and hopefully we can reach at least 50% vaccination rate by end of the year. So after that, we will see how what new measures we can take in order to help businesses go back to business as usual. But overall, the situation is under control. We had to implement the QR system at the entrance of any kind of facility, be it a hotel or trade center, shopping mall, mosque, anything. People go with QR code, and they're identified immediately whether they're good to go, or they're neutral, or they're at risk. So with this system in place, with the zoning system that we have now, we divide regions and cities into 3 zones: safe, which is green, then yellow and red. But irregardless of which zone you're into, you're still able to carry out events. The hotels are open, shopping centers, everything is open, but just dependent on what sort of zone you're into, you have some limitations in terms of carrying capacity and number of hours that are allowed to work. So let's say you're in a red zone, shopping malls are still open, hotel, everything is open, but the working hours of shopping malls are only to 5 p.m. Once you're in yellow zone, you're good to go to 8 p.m. Once you're in green zone, you can work whatever hours you want. Same is for exhibitions and events. The maximum capacity you can get is 206 square meters per, not per attendee, but per the exhibitant of the stand in the exhibitions. And of course, there is control on number of people attending at the same time. And also there is an immediate PCR test during international events that we're carrying out now. So attendants that are coming from out of country, and of course they don't have this local, they cannot be tracked by local this QR code system, and they just test PCR with immediate result, and then they're admitted into a venue. So this kind of preventive measures help us again to sustain economy, at least at a certain level, that people can have jobs in place.
That's great. I mean, the way that you explained about how the vaccination is going, like you said, you're 15% is already fully vaccinated, 25% is they had the first dose, and 50% by the end of the year is quite good numbers, very like reasonable good numbers. And also, the traffic light system that you put locally is very interesting. I mean, I know some of the countries most of them have traffic light system, which is based on the traveling. But the way that you've done it locally, I think it's great, because you feel safer if you're in, like, for example, green area, that you know the numbers are low. So the life is more normal than the areas within red that you know they need to be restriction, which is, I think, is a great way of working that out. And it's very, the more people that I speak about this, and the more destination, more countries, the innovation and the actions they taken is really, really amazing. How the world is how would you say, tackling this problem, because I see it as one world problem. It's not one destination problem. It's everyone have to go through the same problem. Saying that, I want to move to my next question, is about Kazakhstan again, and it's more about the inbound tourists. So why should tourists visit Kazakhstan?
Well, again, we are one of the emerging destinations for international travelers. So of course, we are very known in the region. Russia and Uzbekistan have been the biggest markets for us so far, because we're kind of in the middle of the former USSR kind of area, I should say. And of course, we have the longest ground border with Russia. We're sharing border with China, Russia, Kyrgyzstan, and of course we would see more tourists from there. But speaking of Europe, North America, Southeast Asia, and Middle East, we're still kind of new. So we're trying to position ourselves as something really fresh and new, but with a very comprehensive offer in terms of eco and ethnic. We're sharing with countries in the region our nomadic past. And you can come and experience being a nomad, hunting with birds of prey, living in a yurt, trying traditional cuisine, seeing the remnants of the Silk Road, mausoleums and monuments dating back to 12th, 13th centuries. In fact, some of the places saw the invasion of Genghis Khan, so it's a huge fusion of different historical and cultural events, the evolution of the Silk Road, whereby Kazakhstan was the bridge between civilizations, China and Persia at that time, and many of the products, even food like apples or flowers like tulips, they all originated in Kazakhstan, and then through Iran went to Turkey, from Turkey to Holland. That's the story of tulip, for instance, and people don't know this. And for instance, horse domestication first took place in Kazakhstan, actually, not far away from the capital city, the very north. That changed the let's say the battling story of the world, traveling story over the world once the men domesticated horse. So all these important events took place in Kazakhstan. That's why we really value the cultural heritage side of our tourism offer. And the eco, it's growing, you know, the sentiment all over the world. People are really trying to be sustainable, stay in the guest houses, visiting and staying with locals. We were named by Lonely Planet as the best destination for developing guest houses.
Mm-hmm.
We have really beautiful glacier lakes surrounded by these communities of guest houses around Almaty. So these kind of things related to eco and ethnic, and on top of that, being in a country that is really full of contrasts. You're more like, you know, we've tried to, as we were in the at the intersection of West and East, this kind of historical point affected our lifestyle, affected our cuisine and everything else. So it's really interesting to be in the melting pot and experiencing East and West, experiencing adventure, and at the same time traditional ethnical arts and food and so on. So our call for potential tourists is that you're coming to a fresh destination, which is almost like a lost unknown frontier. You've been everywhere else, but this is something really fresh, but very safe, familiar to you. You might have tried this in different parts of the world too, but not in this context of being in Central Asia, but, you know, seeing Russian speech or having lots of Western educated people, but at the same time, there is still traditional lifestyle in the village, and you can stay with locals, do this agricultural activities and seeing untouched nature. So all this very exciting mix.
Yeah, I mean, what you said so far, I've taken note some of it. It's like what you described is you have the untouched beauty within Kazakhstan, where there's so much offering from gastronomy to heritage, nature, safe, basically eco, sustainable. So you actually have everything that everybody wants to see. So the way that you said it, how Tulip has started, which is, I mean, I think Tulip is one of the most, how would you say, is well received plant in the world, especially around the springtime. So the way that most of the destination promoting it, it's really great to understand where it came from, and also the way that you explain your nomad. So the new trend is now, you know, is digital nomad. Now people are looking to live nomad, but mainly digital, like, you know, working environment, because the whole world is working from, I'll say, from their offices, I mean, from their homes anymore. Like from now on, everyone is just looking for an internet, laptop, phone, and the nomads are now growing more on, like, you know, the young generation, especially, it's like 18 to 35. They're looking for places like, you know, they can live the nature, they can eat nice food, healthy food, and also stay away from the most of the city life. So it could be great potential for your in the future to promote it on a digital nomad. And then lastly is the Silk Road is always interests me. So the Silk Road is one of the, I think, interesting, people should experience that. So moving on to my last and final question is, it's a general question. How do you see the destination trending in 2021 and beyond or post-COVID-19?
Well, once we're done with the pandemic, hopefully sooner than later, there will still be some sort of fear. That's my personal opinion of long-haul travel and so on. People would be kind of testing grounds, more still focused on regional travel. Domestic travel, of course, will remain there, but people will be looking at the destinations that are open. So even though people used to be motivated by something else, like the accessibility, the product, the popularity of the destination, now they would have different parameters to base their decision upon. So they would look if the country is open at all, if there is a direct flight or any flight, and if they're COVID-free. So I guess it's important than never before to work regionally with your neighbors. In our case, we work closely with Uzbekistan because we share this Silk Road program with them, and it's one of the, I guess, classical routes of the Silk Road. So it's very important to be able to help to facilitate travel across the border once the situation stabilizes, because right now the air is open, because the flights, the aircrafts are believed to have this quite effective ventilation system on board. But unfortunately, in our case and in many other countries, the ground border crossing is not allowed. So we have to look into this, how to make it more efficient for people to travel. So my personal prediction is that people would be changing the way they make decision about traveling just by looking at what is open out there. Even they never had this on their radar, they would be almost forced to go somewhere, because vacation time, once the economy more or less stabilizes, will always be there. People would want to travel. So it's very important that the countries start to work regionally, cooperating.
That's true. That's true. Great. I mean, I think we had very fruitful discussion, and the information and the insight that you shared with us, it was great. I would like to thank you one more time on behalf of the Global Tourism Forum participating at our panel, and hoping to have you on our face-to-face event, hopefully when everything gets normal. And if you have anything to say and anything to add, I would really appreciate it that you've taken your time with us to go through all these questions.
It is my pleasure. Thanks very much. I'm also looking forward to attending face-to-face events, but it's very important, just like your event in Bodrum, which was held in a kind of combined mode, both online and offline. I think that's the future to go. So hopefully we'll get back to business as usual as soon as possible. Thanks very much for having me.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.